so excited.
It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielson, Matt Kassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
No Matt Kassian on Two Guys and a Goalie today. Shawn Belle sliding in and joining us in studio. Bellsy, thanks for making the trip in, buddy. How you doing?
It's been great. Thank you for having me. This has been a couple years now.
I was going to say, were you not a guest on Two Guys and a Goalie? And were we still in the basement?
We were still in the basement.
We were in
that
the
was
basement.
Time, yeah.
Down,
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we
filled in a few times for cast.
Down there? Down in the basement, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Man,
you
In
did.
the dungeon.
That was a long. That was pre-pandemic.
Yes, it was.
That was pre-pandemic. So, yeah, that's going back quite a ways. Yeah, well, thanks for sliding in today. No shortage of things to discuss. There's no doubt about that. If you're watching over on YouTube, hammer the thumbs up and feel free to chime in on the conversation. And, of course, you can text us anytime at 780-218-9999. Two Guys and Goalie brought to you by GS Construction, setting the industry standard for 50 years with quality, efficiency, and safety, driving their success. GS Construction has a foundation built on teamwork, and now they want you to become a part of that team. Visit www.gsconstruction.ca. Scroll down and click Ready to Work, or you can just visit their page at Indeed.ca. And when the Next Up Person program at GS Construction, it's not just a job, it is a career. What a game that we have to break down last night. We'll get into that. We'll take a look around the National Hockey League. We have to hire it or fire it for GS Construction as well. But hey, a 1-0 hockey game. I think we have to start with the goalie on this one. If you're allowed to discuss the game, Gager, I'm not sure yet. Hernan, is it okay if we talk about the Oilers with Gager today?
Yeah, he's just got to pace himself.
I love it. Hernan comes over and goes, Dusty, please don't ask Gager about Klingberg. We're going to save that for EST afternoons.
It's like I'm taking the fifth every question. I take the fifth, although that doesn't apply here. But no, it was great. I mean, I didn't call. Did I call for the goalie battle? I didn't think it was. Did I? Oh, I did. I'm a genius. No, I thought Stuart Skinner. I mean, we went over it this morning, Dusty, how great it was to see the bounce back game. This record that he's been able to come back and win after a loss is encouraging, especially when you get into a playoff type.
Yeah.
Well, that's what that was last night.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it was. Yeah, that was a playoff game. I thought Kempe was done after that ankle roll.
That didn't look good.
That did not look good, but
Yeah.
no, they responded well. I thought the Oilers looked really good, and like I said, that's what you want from your goaltender. You come off the road. Not, I mean, the Oilers' starts haven't been great the last 3 games.
Even last night, I thought for 10 minutes they just like the Kings they looked to want it more for 10 minutes.
Oh yeah. But they were going to be hungry too, right? After Calgary, it's just a team that hasn't been able to put the puck in the net yet.
It almost seems like the Oilers have solved them a little bit. Like just the way that they're able to kind of beat them any way that they want.
Like we'll play your way and
we'll still beat you. And I thought that the Oilers they raised their level. Right, like it was a playoff game that had the feel of a playoff game. It had the look of a playoff game, and he just saw things that you hadn't seen in a long time. I remember one shift in specifics where Draisaitl was probably 2 zones away, and he outraced the defenseman, outmuscled it. You know, they won the battle, gets down low, they cycle it for a while, and then there was sustained pressure. And I'm just like, okay, well, that's a playoff team that you see, that you want to see. And so I thought it was really encouraging to see the Oilers play that way.
I have to say, I know it's just a regular season game, but it is a big regular season game. So let me ask you guys this. How demoralizing is it when you lose to a team that beats you the way you like to win hockey games? Like that's got, and not even including the fact that they've eliminated you 3 years in a row. Like that one's got to be a kick right in the nuts to the Kings.
Yeah, it's definitely not good. I mean, you're playing your game. You're one of the best teams in the league doing it, and then all of a sudden, here come the Oilers, who, I mean, let's be honest, for the most part, we don't sit here and be like, man, they're the best defensive team in the world.
We don't expect them to win 2-1 hockey games.
And then they do it, and it has to be demoralizing. Like, you got to look back at this game and be like, well, we didn't have any chances. What are we supposed to do against these guys? You got the two best players in the world. They don't give us any chances. Like, it's got to be tough.
You guys ever watch Crocodile Dundee when he jumps out and there's the water buffalo in the road?
Yeah,
and he goes,
yeah.
That's what the Oilers do to the Kings. Like, this got mind control over them.
Do you think that's just a thing for a movie, or could somebody actually do that to a water buffalo?
That to water buffaloes.
Do you?
Anytime. Yeah.
Oh, I was wondering, like, if that's a thing over, like, where people could actually do that, and like, I don't know. But I know the scene you're talking about.
Yeah.
I haven't watched Crocodile Dundee in a long time, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Some classic lines there. Let's
great.
be honest.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's certain teams, certain players that you kind of have their number. I think you look at the rosters of both teams, they're quite similar. A few name bars have changed to the other jersey. But you know what I thought about last night too? And I know he's having a good year, and he had a good year last year with Edmonton. But if you're putting Warren Foegele out there in the last minute and a half to win the game or be counted on offensively to score, you're in trouble.
He did have 5 shots last night. I mean, he was shooting everything.
He looks great. I think he's got that little bit of a gur on for the Oilers. Like he gets, and he's been good. And I like.
But you're saying
Foegele.
that shows where the two teams are at, because Foegele would never come over the bench,
not
as the extra attacker with the roster
there
right now.
was injuries and someone just had to change, and he was the first up. Like, there's no way on the Oilers, right? And probably one of the reasons he left, right? So he's counted on to do a lot more. He's doing well, but
he almost seemed like he was pre-Oilers Warren Foegele.
Yeah.
Right? Like when he was playing in Carolina, like he was counted on, right?
Yeah.
And that's the way that he's been playing. And
you're right, Bill, because when he was in Carolina, I was like, man, somebody should give this guy a little bit more of an opportunity.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
And then all of a sudden he comes to the Oilers, and it's hard because you're buried behind some like legitimate forwards.
Yeah.
And you don't get the goals that you probably want. You probably excel a little bit more point-wise because you do play with McDavid and you do play with Draisaitl from time to time, and then you go to the Kings, and it's now you're the counted-on guy. So it's a little bit different, but I just think that the biggest difference between the two teams is the fact that you have McDavid and you have Draisaitl. And no matter what you can possibly throw at those two, they're the best players in the world, and offensively they're going to find a way, especially when they're engaged.
Like if both teams are in lockdown mode, you'll take McDavid and Draisaitl and be the guys who have that one moment.
100%.
Which is what happened last night. That was the story of the game last night, yeah.
And you can't, like, maybe you can get 1 or 2 games where, you shut down McDavid, you shut down Draisaitl. It's rare. Like, I don't know what the stat would be where both guys don't have points.
Doesn't happen very often.
But if you're in a best of 7, like, I don't think you're going to be able to do it at any point. So, as much as the Kings they're a great team, they're hard on defense, they stymie everything, they just don't have that echelon of player to kind of get them over the hump.
Gager, Skinner has been good for quite a while here now. He was their best player last night. How much do you guys read into the biggest game of the year so far? And he has one of his best games of the season so far, and we can include the bounce back stat. He's now 9-0 after a loss with a save percentage of .940 or better and a goals against average sub 170. Gager, how much you read into last night's game for people who doubt Skinner and say, look, this is a huge game, and he was on his game?
It's massive, I think. The response. He got lit up in the first period against the Pittsburgh Penguins for 4, ended up losing the game. He probably didn't feel too great about that, not the performance, but the game itself, right? And this was obviously circling on the calendar. He was coming back to go up against the Kings. We all know this is going to be the first round of the playoffs, so it's a kind of a message sent that look, I want to go up against your guy again and show that dominance that he's shown against Korpisalo, Talbot, the flipper, the stick flipper. Like he's owned these guys, right? And just to get into the heads a little bit, and you could see the Kings were really frustrated. And what a save! That Kempe save was just
The drama on it after he makes it, and you're like, oh, where's it
just
going to
awesome.
go? Like,
and I
yeah.
was looking at, like, if you slow it down, I don't know if Kopitar was kind of smiling, but he looked like he was smiling, trying to get the puck off and trying to get. He's just like, come on. And Kempe's just eyes to the sky, like,
Yeah.
what the heck?
Huge save with the way that game had started.
Yeah,
I mean,
he scores there, it changes, right? And I think Hernan, I said it yesterday, so
Don't tell Hernan what we're talking about. He's going to get furious. He's going to be pissed off.
I said, even like with the Oilers coming home, I thought it would be way more beneficial if they got that first goal.
Do you think that was a turning point of the game? Because
Save?
that's safe. Because if that goal goes in, right? Is it a moment where Skinner's like, oh, here we go again, right? Like you give up that first goal, and now all of a sudden you're kind of playing back on your heels. And when the Kings are ahead, well, you know how locked down they are.
You do not want to
Yeah,
fall behind the Los
Exactly.
Angeles
Yeah,
Kings
no.
1-0.
So was that a bit of a turning point?
I mean, I thought it was the biggest moment of the game. It seemed like the Oilers got going after the penalty, though. Like after the hook on Henrique there.
Yep.
It seems like that's kind of when they got going. But without that say, I still like we've seen them come back in the last week a couple of times.
Yep.
But I mean, if you're going to beat the Kings in a series, you're gonna have to make sure they don't score first 4 times.
Yeah.
You're like, that's gonna be a tough team to come back against. And I think that was a big part of it last night for sure.
Yeah, no, I think that was, and just the psyche of a team coming in. I mean, Dustin Wolf, I don't know how much you watched of that game where the Flames beat the Kings. Getting goalied, is it goalied? Yeah, sure, why not? They got goalied 2 games in a row. I mean, they've allowed, what, 4 goals in their last 3 games?
They went on that. They had Winnipeg, Calgary, and Edmonton, and they allowed 4 goals in 1-1 game.
Yeah, that's absolutely
good.
crazy.
Yeah, speaking of goaltending, we were talking about it a little bit this morning. And Gage, you just mentioned a bunch of the names between the pipes that the Oilers have faced against the Kings in the playoffs. Bellsy, does it change anything that it's Darcy Kemper now? Like he's won a cup. He's had a really nice season so far. I thought he was great last night. I mean, the one goal he let in, a rebound to Connor McDavid wide open. Does it change the way you view the Kings at all that Kemper's their goalie now as opposed to the other guys they've rotated through for the last 2-3 years?
No, it doesn't. Because at the end of the day, is he that much better than those other guys? I think the biggest problem with the Kings is the fact that they can't score. And that's been plaguing them for how many years? For the last 5 years, 6 years?
It's been a while.
Right?
I mean,
Like
even when they won cups, they weren't lighting the world on fire offensively, but yeah.
And even with that, I mean, the reason they traded for Pierre-Luc Dubois was so that they can get more scoring. And obviously that didn't work out, but they got rid of 3 guys in that Winnipeg trade that you're like, well, man, if those guys were on that team right now, where would you actually be? So there was a bit of like, I understand why they made the trade because they wanted to take that leap and have a guy that could score and, you know, put a little bit more pressure on teams from an offensive perspective. Doesn't work out, and now you're here. You improve your goaltending slightly, but at the same time, like, you've only scored 121 goals.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest problem with the Kings. It's not so much the rest of their team game. It's just the fact that, like, yeah, sure, Kemper's in the net, but you can't outscore other teams.
That's the thing. Like, when we're going to get to it a little bit with Hire to Friday a little bit later on about what those guys have to do, the Kings have to do at the deadline, or actually maybe around the NHL. We'll get to it. What about the 11-7, Gager? Let's start with you on this one. What do you think was the main driver in them deciding to go 11-7 yesterday? We had a bunch of people with different theories on it this morning on the show. I'm curious to think why you decided, or why you think they decided to go that way.
Showcase Brown? I don't know.
That must be it. Hey, they sent his 6 minutes and 47 seconds a game, which did include a shot on goal. I think he had last night. Yeah.
So pump him up a little.
I know you go 11-7. Neither the Stetcher. You go 11-7, and Emerson plays his 4th most minutes of the season.
I know.
So Brown and Stetcher both played less than 7 minutes last night. Is it you wanted the extra body on the blue line around, or is it you don't think Derek Ryan or Jeff Skinner, and we'll get to more on Skinner, but you think maybe they can't contribute in a game like that?
I don't know. With Jeanot, Mikey Anderson, Byfield, I know he's not but he's a big body. It might have just been the peace treaty at warm up. You know, when a guy just skates, okay, Brown's in the lineup. If I do something, I can't take liberties with guys. And
Kings didn't hit much last night.
No.
Yeah.
I thought maybe that was it. The Kings went 11-7 too.
They
right?
also went 11-7.
So I don't know if that.
I don't know if they do it more regularly.
I think
than,
they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they definitely do it more regularly than this year's version of the Oilers. We haven't seen it much from the Oilers this year.
It's you don't see it at all. So I thought it was just a message sent. Just if things get out of control, Brown's at least there to go out because I think it was kind of necessary in Pittsburgh with Zadorov. He runs Skinner, and Brown goes over and has a little discussion, kind of cools temperature. Nothing happens, but I think that's the reason. Just because the Kings are a little bit heavier of a team. Yeah,
the other reason behind it could be that they just wanted to run McDavid and Draisaitl a little bit more down the middle as a center between the two fourth-line wingers. Belsey, what do you think it was?
I actually kind of lean towards that because I'm just looking at the stats and it's like the Kings gave 100 goals. And so you've got to grind in that game. You can't take any chances. You can't give up anything for free. And unfortunately, what we've seen from Jeff Skinner is that he's not very proficient defensively. So he's going to give up something for free. And in a game like that, to me, you want to try to find ways to get your top offensive players out on the ice a little bit more. And so when I look at that, yeah, Brown could be a bit of a deterrent, but at the same time, like this wouldn't have been the first time I guess they would have gone without a Brown or a tough guy in the lineup. Like these guys just want to get out there and they just want to roll and they want to play. So for me, it's like, okay, here's more guys that have a little bit more offensive punch that you now have to slow down.
Yeah, and from an Oilers perspective, you probably don't have to worry about Perry and Kapanen and Ryan on the ice.
Yeah.
When you just throw McDavid or Draisaitl out there between them, you're like, okay, you know what, the line's it's gonna be fine. Go out and give them. How much did those two guys play last night? I'm just trying to think. How much did Perry and let's see. I wonder how much they ran those two guys last night. They were out there a little bit. Try to get to the bottom of that. Belsey, what about 7 D-men as a defenseman? Like
it sucks.
Yeah,
it's the worst thing ever because you can't even get into the rhythm of the game. And
like when you're playing 6.5 minutes in a hockey game.
Yeah, if you're in the top 4, like you're loving it because it doesn't change what you're doing. But if you're the other 3 guys, like you're kind of sitting there being like, "Come on, guys! Like we don't need this." Now, obviously, it keeps guys fresh. It keeps if you need a little bit of a bump or maybe that top 4 defenseman now has a little bit extra juice coming in the third period. He can play a little bit more. He can save you that way. But, I mean, it's hard if you're in the bottom 3 to get rhythm, especially the bottom 2.
Well, that's. I mean, you want to play, but
yeah,
you don't want to play 6.5 minutes.
No,
I mean, you might as well not be playing at that point.
Like, because then you're cold. First of all, if you do get a shift in the third, it's probably 10-minute mark, and then you're. Then you're watching, all it is, you're not making plays. You're just 45 seconds.
You're fighting for your life.
Yeah, and I'm getting this puck out. No one's touching this thing, and I'm getting off. You know, you don't want to be the guy that allows the goal with 6 minutes of ice time.
What do you think of 100%. Emberson playing his 4th most minutes in a big game like that? He was out there at the end of the game alongside Ekholm. I think there's a very limited offensive upside with him, but he's physical. And the coaching staff obviously believes in him. I think you have to be pretty happy if you're Emberson right now with the responsibility that they're letting you take here.
100%. I think when he started the season, it was too much too soon. And so then they move him back into that last pairing, the third pairing, and he's slowly just gaining more and more confidence. And you kind of see it. Like he's physical. He skates well. He makes good plays. Like he's not super sexy offensively, but the Oilers don't need guys like that. They need guys that can shut you down, and that's what Emberson's been giving you every single night. So now he comes in and he plays against a team that can't score that well, but he's physical and he can skate and he can keep up to those guys. And I think that's part of the reason that they brought him in is because he can skate and he can limit those chances. And I think that's, a big step in the right direction for the Oilers because you need more guys to be able to, snuff out opposing teams' chances.
Tango over in the Nasty Chat. And if you're watching on YouTube today, hammer the thumbs up for us. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tango says, I think it's more of a shot at Bouchard. Tango, are you talking about Emberson being out there later? Or are you talking about them going with 7? Bouchard still ended up playing 22-20 last night, essentially. But Gage, I mean, Bouchard shouldn't be out there in the final minute and a half of a hockey game. Like,
No.
he just shouldn't.
No, he should not.
He would be
That's not
fifth,
his-
he would be my fifth option right now. I'd rather have Kulak out there, rather have Nurse, rather have Ekholm, and rather have Emerson.
You'd like him out there just because his ability to move the puck, but he's got a broken motivator a little bit in his own end a little bit right now. I mean, it was great in playoffs, but his intensity level, it just isn't high enough to be out there last minute of a game trying to nurse home a 1-goal lead.
Yeah, there's a little bit more tenacity on the puck with Emerson, which is what you're looking for.
Yeah.
In that
Emerson's,
spot. Like,
I don't know when it was for me, but because I hadn't noticed him at all this year, really.
That's a good thing.
Like I didn't even know he was number 49. Like, I was
That's actually a really good thing.
I know,
Right?
it's really good, but I notice when 49's out there now because usually there's a play in the corner and he hits a guy and he it looks like it hurts, and he's coming along, man. I'm really impressed where he's at right now.
So if he can take the jump and start playing more in the top 4, hypothetical,
Yeah.
do the Oilers now sit back and say, okay, well, we can be a little bit more calculated in who we try to bring in? Because that's what's going on behind the scenes. Is everybody saying that the
they would
Oilers
be
need a
talking
guy?
about that, yeah.
But if he can take that next jump, if you're the Oilers, being like, okay, well, we have to go get this defenseman? Because it's the guy you saw yesterday. You're like,
Yeah, I would look at it and go, if he continues to take steps in the right direction, you've got a really good third pair with him and Kulak.
Yeah.
Then
Yep.
still
Yeah.
go get somebody.
Yeah.
Because Emerson and Kulak on your third pair, I think, good enough. I mean, I think you could get to another Stanley Cup final with those two guys on your third pair. Good veteran guy who's having a nice season alongside an emerging guy who might be on a career path similar to a Kulak type of thing, right? Like I think that's a good third pair. So no, I think you still I think they'd still have to go get a significant piece if possible on the back end if they can pull that off.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if that's your third pair and you get the continued growth of Emerson and playoff Kulak, that's a dynamite third pair. But yeah, like you said, I don't think you want to thrust Emerson. Okay, now you know what? Things are going good. Now you're top 4. Right? Like
What that does then, like we just said, like you laid out, Belzy, one of you guys at the beginning of the year was a little bit too much.
Yep,
Yeah.
it was.
Right?
Yep.
And now if you're like, hey, here's Nurse, play with Nurse for 5, that
Yeah.
might be a little bit too much again. So I think you got to definitely upgrade. Eden is into the text line at 780-218-9990. He says, why is Bouch catching strays? He had a good game last night. He closed quick on that breakaway chance and had much sharper passes and plays than in the last 3 games. Well, I mean, we were just talking about being on the ice at the final moments of the game. There are better options for you when you're protecting a lead than Bouchard right now. Over on YouTube is where you can chime in as well and hammer the thumbs up for us. It's Two Guys and a Goalie presented by GS Construction. Jeff Skinner, healthy scratched in that game last night. Biggest game of the year. Couldn't find his way in. First of all, Belzy, from a player perspective, you come here to Edmonton. He does have a full no movement clause. Mm-hmm. But do you if he's not going to get into the lineup, do you think he'd be willing to waive that thing to go somewhere else? And he would obviously have some say in this, but do you think that could be a path here, or is he just in and out of lineup the rest of the season?
Well, the competitor says, yeah, you want to go play. But if you've never been in a playoff game and you have an opportunity to potentially win a Stanley Cup with this team, I think you'd want to stick
Just
it out.
suck it up and ride it
You
out.
never know what's going to happen. But it's such a tough spot where he's in because they bring him in for that secondary offense. Everybody knew he couldn't play on the defensive end. But you still bring him in and you're like, okay, now go play in the defensive role. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I think if you're the Oilers, you have to move on because I think there's other players that can fill that role that you currently have him in. But at the same time,
Who are meant to do that job.
exactly.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if at any point he figures it out and you got a potential 20 goal scorer sitting on your third line, you're a much better hockey team. So it's such an interesting fine line between what they should do or what they can do, especially with the no movement clause.
Yeah.
But I get it. Like I understand fully why people are like, okay, well, let's trade him and get something else.
Find a guy who can play physically on your third line, and
It's because it's what they need.
yeah,
right?
kill penalties, and like Gage, what would you do if you're making this call on Skinner? What do you? Because I had people yesterday in Oilers Stream, we were talking about this morning. Like people are texting in, being like, "Man, I'd give him a shot in the top 6 again and see if he can click and score goals up there." But their top 6 is pretty stabilized right now. They're winning a ton of hockey games. You're trying to have him do something that he's never been good at in his entire career, and when he's not good at it, you sit him, and he's still actually tied for 5th on the team in goals. So, I mean, what are you supposed to do with this guy?
I feel like there's just a moment for him where he's going to be the difference, and I think it's in playoffs. Is one person playing physical going to change the whole outlook of this Edmonton Oilers lineup?
Of the postseason?
Yeah.
I mean, depending on the opponent, maybe.
Like, it's going to have to be a pretty significant player.
But I don't know if it's just the fact that of just the one player. I think the problem is that if you're the Oilers, you don't want to give up anything for free, right? Like you want to make teams earn it, and that one extra guy that's saddled in potentially with Henrique and whoever, like
Henrique and Brown, probably,
could actually make that line harder to play against. And I think that's the biggest piece of that, because Henrique and Brown, they're working. And then on the left side, you're like, there's a void, and you're basically playing 5-on-4. Like, that's hard. And you might give up something for free because you're cheating for offense when you don't need to be cheating for offense in that particular spot. So that one player might actually make them harder to play against. I don't think he's going to make the world of difference. But now they become a team that, well, it's hard.
I'm probably reading too much into this process, but is there any way, and Bellsy, you coach kids, older kids, but is there any way the coaching staff would be like, listen, we know he can score goals. And if he was playing in the top 6, he'd probably have 12, 13, 14 goals right now. But is there, could they be saying to him, go into the bottom 6, get the defensive side of your game responsible enough that we can play you every night, and then maybe we can feel more comfortable putting you back into, you know what I mean? Like, go find some defensive responsibility, and then we can give you that offensive opportunity again. Do you think there might be a little bit of that there?
I think there could be, but the problem is that how long has he been in the league for? That's not changing overnight. That's not changing overnight. So
why don't you just go ask him to go play goal, Dusty?
I know. I was just thinking. You're right. That's more of a Dylan Holloway thing. Like, when they had Holloway, go play there for a bit. I guess Jeff Skinner's like 33, and he's like, I'm not doing this now.
I can't be doing this now. Like, you get to this spot, and you're like, okay, well, now you're not on the power play because we've got our 5, and once we get kind of into the playoffs, like those 5 are going to probably play a minute and a half.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you're not a penalty killer. So you're just a 5-on-5 guy. And like, that's tough.
As an offensive only guy, like.
It's funny, the Puckpedia, whoever came up with that anchor as the logo for the no movement clause.
Oh man,
it's really cheap.
It really suits it, right?
I would suggest 80% of no movement clauses are anchors.
Yeah, that's isn't that an anchor?
It looks like a little anchor. Yeah,
it is an anchor.
Well, it makes sense. It's an anchor because you can't move. You can't move them, right? So
it's perfect. Yeah.
That is kind of funny. Leon Draisaitl right now, and set up the goal last night. I think he has him. I think he's a top 3 Hart Trophy guy right now. Bellsy, is this the best Leon Draisaitl has ever played?
He's looked unbelievable. And I just love the fact that he's not deferring to Connor. And now it's legitimately a true 1-2 threat because he can carry his own line. There's no more conversation about, well, here attached to Connor McDavid.
His line's more effective.
Points. Exactly. You only get points because of Connor McDavid. It's a true 1-2 punch, and I think this is the best he's looked because he's dominant, and he's like a modern-day Jagger with more skill. If you can add more skill to Jagger.
Yeah, no, the way he initiates contact now, that's a lot of confidence.
Yeah, it doesn't get it done with speed in the offensive zone, but gets it done with power and smarts.
But he can, though. He can.
No, he can wheel. But you know how it is. You know how Jagger would approach the offensive zone. Like Draisaitl's a little bit like that.
Come, I'll bring 2 guys from you. I'll put it on my backhand and find the open guy.
Protect it, make the right play.
It's impressive, man. There's between him and Hellebuck right now.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up because I had here. I said Draisaitl for the Hart Trophy. Why not Hellebuck? Because some of the Hart rankings coming out, like the guys over at TSN Bar Down had McDavid in the top 5 and didn't have it. Like sometimes you have to watch these hockey games. Connor Hellebuck leads all goaltenders in every single stat, has faced more shots than anybody else, has 6 shutouts and 6 regulation losses. I don't know how he can't be in the top 3 right now.
He should be.
He's on the first place team.
Yeah.
Like, the best guy on the team.
And it's not only like stat wise. If you actually take the time and watch him play, like he's making, it's not just save here, save there. They're crucial saves at crucial
All the
times.
time.
Like it just momentum changing saves that he's doing.
He's carrying him on their back.
Yeah. And he's going to be completely gassed in the first round.
Can't wait.
He cannot be as bad in the first round this year as he was last year. That was awful last year from the Jets.
What, is he trending? How many games is he trending for right now?
82.
He's
So like probably close to like 65, 70.
he's probably, it's got to be minimum 65. What's
Well,
he pays
add in the old
You'll get a few
bonafide
at,
All-Star game there, and he's
at 34 so far. So yeah, he's pacing for around probably 65. Yeah.
he's going to play 70 games. I bet you.
And he might be gassed. But unless he's a guy that, because if you look back at yesteryear, a lot of those goaltenders were playing 70 games. And they were never gassed out.
Gage, what was the most games you played in here? Like overseas or in the A?
I think I played. God, I'd have to look it up. Did I play 64 one year?
And how'd that body feel?
Fantastic.
There you go.
Well, it didn't.
I mean, when
matter.
you have the body of a Greek god, I mean,
Yeah, it was fine. I think. I mean, there were probably some real stinkers in there, but
Doesn't matter. You played 64 games, man.
I think. Let's see.
I've got you in the regular season 50, and then you probably had playoffs that year, so that would have taken you up to 60-some.
Yeah.
That was in
Oh, you
Kassian
played
Castle.
63 in Portland.
Yeah, that's
Jeez.
63 in Portland.
63 games in the dub.
How
That's like
far did
90% of the sked.
That is. How far did you go in the playoffs with Castle that year? You played 50 regular season games.
Oh, I don't know. 2 rounds.
So you're probably into the 60s.
You're probably in
Yeah.
the 60s there, too, and that would have been later in your career.
Yeah. And then what was it? I think in Sweden. What did I do in Sweden? Is it even in here?
42.
42, then playoffs, another 12.
So that was a 54
Yeah.
game season as well.
So
You had 10 PIMs in 12 playoff games. Nice work, Gager.
as,
What happened? Was that all? Was that a 10-minute misconduct, or did you take 5 minders in 12 playoff games?
okay,
Where was he?
What's that?
Where was he when he took
No,
the
that was in Sweden.
That was in
In Sweden.
Jordan. Yeah. No, I was a physical goaltender.
I got to look up here to see if you led the team in penalty minutes. God, a lot of penalty minutes in 12 playoff games for that team.
I won the Jan Kaminer of the year that year.
What's that? The rookie of the year?
No, it was the best player of the team. But
The young Kaminer.
Yeah,
Cool.
I'll bring in the trophy. It's pretty cool. But I remember when the guy announced me. I didn't know I was winning this thing. All I heard, and then a fighting spirit, and then he said my name, and I won.
You had the fighting spirit,
yeah,
buddy.
because
That's
I
why,
fought
yeah.
like the game before. That's when I went nuts on the guy.
You had a young Nick Cronwall on that team.
Yeah,
Was he hitting everything that moved over there too?
yeah,
Was he?
yeah. But we played that torpedo system, so it's two
Was that a
forward,
4-1 type of thing?
2 forwards go crazy. The centerman's basically a D-man, and then the libero, the Cronwall, is like the offensive defenseman that jumps in the play. So
the center would just cover for him all the time.
Center covers is almost like the second D-man.
It's almost like a 2-3, but like that centerman fills in.
Yeah.
Okay.
He stays
Are you going to start implementing this in HSL? No, not going to happen.
No chance.
It's great.
That's interesting. All right, I've had 10 PIMs. We got to look that up. I want to know what those 10 penalty minutes came from. There must have been a fight. Was there a fight in the playoffs?
I think it was.
Did you
against
actually
Färjestad.
fight?
Yeah, I did.
Well, because you had a bunch of. I'm looking at that team, and in 12 games, Bjorn Nord had 33 PIMs.
Oh,
Christian Eklund had 27 and 7.
his son plays for the Sharks.
Lundstrom had 43 in 12 games, and
Per
you
Anton.
had 10.
Yeah.
So
You guys had a line brawl for sure.
there had to have been a brawl in that playoff somewhere.
I probably grabbed someone and just got whatever.
Not bad. Not bad. All right, let's take a look around the National Hockey League. If you're watching over on YouTube today, hammer the thumbs up for us and feel free to chime in on anything that we are discussing. And obviously hit us up over on the nasty or on the text line as well, 780-218-9999. It's two guys, the goalie, Dusty Gager and Shawn Belle in for Matt Kassian today. And we will get to a few more of those. Troll texts in and says, guys, I remember reading the WHL record book. Steve Passmore played 71 of 72 games one year. Insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was good too.
Was that a Portland guy? He was a Portland guy too, was he not?
He was. That was when he played for the Cougars. And then he went to Kamloops.
Prince George?
No, Prince George wasn't.
No,
in the
Victoria
league.
Cougars.
Victoria
I have his
Okay.
WHL card actually.
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah, it's a cool looking
Passy.
card. He's down in a crouch and he still had the old mask then.
It's funny. There was a guy behind the bench or behind me, first and third period in Victoria, just wouldn't shut up the whole time and just yelling through that little gap. The whole time.
Oh, like right into the thing?
yeah. And like whisper.
What a life you got to live to go to junior games and chirp
Just
kids.
chirp kids? Yeah. Oh, man.
I remember we used to chirp when the ice first moved to Cranford, but I was also 19 years old. Like there's a lot different back then. All right, around the National Hockey League, quickly on the Kings, because we just said it. Do the Kings need to add a scoring forward just to have a hope in a series against the Oilers?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Because when they have won the Cups, they have went out and traded for guys that can score. They need somebody to get them over the hump. I think what I say, they had 121 goals. So if you're in the Western Conference and there's 13 teams, you are, I believe, in the bottom 6 of goals for. That's not good enough for a team that
No matter how good you are defensively, you got to. Well,
Yeah.
And as you pointed out, and it was Button this morning and brought it up. 2012, they got Jeff Carter.
Yep.
14, they brought in Gabrick.
Yes.
Right? And I don't know if there's a Carter or Gabrick type that'll be out there prior to the deadline this year, but it's got to be some way to inject a little bit more offense. And I would think
Jeff
they probably
Skinner.
want to. That's what somebody said today. Maybe the Kings would be interested in a team's 5th leading goal scorer.
Are you going to get back in return? Warren Fogle?
It actually works.
I mean, financially, the Oilers can make that work, and I would take Fogle in the bottom 6. ahead of Skinner.
gosh, yeah.
For sure. All right, John Klingberg. This was interesting. Drager had this morning. Klingberg is hoping to return. He had a hip resurfacing surgery, I think is what it was called. Ottawa, Toronto, and apparently Edmonton are among 5 to 7 teams in the mix. Belzy, what's your level of interest in an aging, coming off surgery, John Klingberg?
Zero interest
Yeah.
in John Klingberg because he's not what the Oilers need. The Oilers need a guy that can.
They need the exact opposite of John Klingberg.
Exactly. They need a defensive defenseman because they've got Bouchard, they've got Ekholm, who's your two-way guy. You could argue Nurse is your two-way guy. You need guys that can find ways to stop the opposing team from scoring goals, and that is not John Klingberg. I might have said yes 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Just the way that he was playing, but
To be honest with you, it almost concerns me that the Oilers are somewhat interested. You can't look at Klingberg and go, yes, that's the guy. Like, I don't see a world where
because when he was in
he's a
Toronto,
fit.
he was awful.
He's
terrible.
he fell off quickly.
Wasn't it? He was the one that bet on himself when he had the
Remember, he
deal
had
with
that
Anaheim.
big offer,
Yes.
and then
Yes,
It was
decided-
like they offered like $8 million over 8. And he
Yeah.
said no.
Sam Darnold thinks that was a bad decision after last night's hockey game. That's a tough one. Yeah. So I mean, I'm not joking when I say I'm concerned that the Oilers are even like apparently in the mix because I mean, Emberson is better for what the Oilers need right now.
Yep.
And if your solution is adding Klingberg alongside Darnell Nurse, you're not going to improve your team in any way, shape, or form.
We did hear about Brian Dumoulin.
Oh yeah.
Dumoulin.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pagnon on our show last Saturday mentioned Dumoulin.
On Hello Hockey.
Yeah. Potential guy for the Oilers. He said, like, obviously with the fact that now there could be that $5.1 million, he's like, you can increase it a little bit, but how far do you want to go? Right? As opposed to maybe I can bring in 2 players for that 5.1 or that 5.2. Or do you just
Yeah, you want to move that around? You know, that's a good question, actually. Do you guys think 5? Well, I think with the Kane thing and then accrued cap space, I think they'll be around 6.2 come the deadline. At least, minimum.
But wasn't there something that came out from Puckpedia that said the Oilers, the way that they structured it?
They corrected that yesterday.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was confusing as hell. And I texted Hart from Puckpedia that morning. I was like, dude, this doesn't make sense to me. And but yesterday they put out a tweet.
They did? Okay.
Quote tweet that saying it was a mistake with the way that they put him on LTIR. So basically the math is they can get the full 5.1
Yep.
and then whatever they have accrued, which they were
Okay.
trying to say they
Okay.
couldn't get.
Yeah.
But Gager, would you rather spend the $6 million? Let's say they have $6 million. And I think conservatively, if Kane's out the rest of the year, that's what they'll have at the deadline. Would you rather spend that $6 million on one defenseman, or do you think you'd sprinkle two players into this lineup at $3 million apiece? That's what you're saying, right, Belsey? Yeah.
No, I think I go with the one defenseman.
You
It's
like the rest
available.
of the team's depth enough?
If it's the perfect defenseman, I go with that's fine. That's the only place I can see that they need it, because they do have extra bodies that they can mix and match.
I mean, with the way you can get salary retained elsewhere now, I mean, they could go out and get an $8 million defenseman, get some retained, and
They really could.
I mean, if they wanted
which
to,
they should.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they could basically, if it's just targeting one defenseman, cap hit wise, it shouldn't be a problem. I mean, they should be able to get. I don't think they'll be screwed on if Kane is on the LTIR the rest of the year.
This is just a hypothetical. What happens if you took 4.9 of that, you went out and got your defenseman, and then you went to Detroit and said, hey, I want Christian Fischer, who is 1.1 million. He's 6'2", has some speed to his game. He's got a little bit of polish, finish. And you say, Kate, that's your fourth line right winger, replacing Perry. And now you have Kane coming back in the lineup, and you add a defenseman.
And you could play Janmark in the middle and play, and then get Derek Reimer if you want to keep Perry.
If you
in.
want to keep him in.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, you could spend about $5 on a D and then another $1 million bottom six forward. I don't mind that strategy.
Because it wouldn't, how big of a difference is it going to be between that $5 million defenseman versus that $6 million defenseman? Because there's a lot of $5 million defensemen that might be just as good, if not better than the $6, and vice versa.
100%. Yeah.
So obviously it's got to be, the right player, but I just find if you can add just one more piece to it, does that now push you over the top? And I'm not saying Perry's going to be the guy that's coming out, but can you upgrade Derek Ryan? Can you, what can you possibly upgrade to become a better team?
I would like a little bit more physicality in the bottom six.
Yeah.
Just
I
a
agree
little
with
bit
you,
more of a grind.
Yeah.
And not saying that person has to play every game, but if you're man, we need a little kick in the ass.
Yeah.
Get that guy.
Yeah.
Throw him in there, and that's not going to cost you much.
I agree.
That's a mindset for a guy who has make $1 million. I mean, you should be able to find that guy.
Because you bring Kane back in, he probably slots into your third spot.
Well, actually, somebody was asking that question earlier. So if Kane were to come back, the Oilers get to the playoffs, they haven't acquired a forward. Mm-hmm. Where would you play Evander Kane, Belsey?
He's got to be in your 3 spot.
Henrique and Brown.
Yep.
And Kane.
Yep.
Right, Gager?
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, and then you're looking at Matthias Janmark on your fourth line.
Yeah. And I mean, Hernan's going to hate the fact that I'm about to say this, but Podkolzin's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Dry loves playing with him.
He's
so,
locked in, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's going to be...
He's
gonna be
strong,
there.
man. Who did the guy tried to
He just
headlock him, and he just said, nope,
No.
you're not doing that to me.
Yeah.
Get
Like
off.
a little
He's a
Russian gas.
powerful dude.
Little Russian gas in that.
In that tank there?
Vroom. Yeah.
Yeah. He's not going anywhere.
No.
I mean, what about so it was brought to our attention this morning on a text or in the chat or something that Connor McDavid's numbers this year are actually worse with Nuge on his line than when he's not with Nuge. It'd be tough coming off of the surgery. He's not playing a year to be like, hey, go keep up with Connor McDavid out there. I don't know if Kane can do that.
I don't know if he can do it either,
Yeah.
but I mean, you hope so. But I mean,
third line with
He
him.
could before, though.
Yeah, he could be 4, but I mean, he's had his core reconstructed
guess.
essentially.
I mean, if he...
I mean, if you think about it, you could put Nuge down on that third line and
With
have
Kane
it
and with Henrique.
Henrique, Nuge, and Brown,
Yeah.
and then maybe move Kane up. But I mean, that's kind of.
I mean, you could flip that
You could
depending
flip
on
it.
how a series goes.
But I don't know.
Interesting conversation
Yeah.
for sure. All right, so we are no on Klingberg. 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. I do want to get to this text. Craig says, why chime in on the text? Dusty just ignores them. So I will get to this text that he sent in a little bit earlier on. I think he sent this in this morning as well, but I'll get to it. It says, guys, please no more. Jeff Skinner deserves a longer look takes. He's a one-trick pony, a goal scorer, and he can barely do that trick anymore. When your team has 97, 29, 93, and 18, you don't need Skinner's 1 or 2 goals per 10 games. The team needs defensive-minded puck retrieval forwards to complement the scores. Jeff Skinner isn't this player. As an overall player, Henrique completely trumps Skinner, which is needed lower in the lineup. And, of course, he penalty kills. So, Krager just wanted to let everybody know that he's totally out on Jeff Skinner. All right, there we go. I read your text, Craig. Thanks for sending it in and tell your
me how
friends
you
about
really
Edmonton
feel.
Sports Talk. Yeah. So, power play time for Skinner? What's going on here? Hired or fired for GS Construction? They are hiring now. Become a part of the great team today by visiting gsconstruction.ca or their page on Indeed.ca. For the past 50 years, the foundation of GS Construction has been built on efficiency, quality, and safety. Take your career to the next level. Join the team at GS Construction today. Let me ask you this, because we just talked about it. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, in your opinion, has been hurting Connor McDavid this season. Hired or fired? So if you like the take, Belzy, you hire it. If you don't like the take, fire it. Ooh.
I'm hiring it.
You are hiring
Oh,
it.
yeah. He's been lackluster. And I know he went through a few games ago. He scored some goals, but he has not been close to what you would consider a good performance from the Nuge.
Has been an off year, but is he hurting Connor McDavid?
Yeah, I'm going to fire it because I don't think he's actually hurting him. Do I think he's helping the situation? Not necessarily, but I don't think he's been so bad that he's hurting and stymieing McDavid's offense. You would like to see him score more 5-on-5. Nuge has been kind of a streaky scorer on the power play. But man, am I on that line? I'm on the fence with that one, but I would still fire it because I don't think he's hurting him.
I only ask the most difficult questions
Yeah,
during
you do.
hired
You
or
do.
fired. Kasperi Kapanen will be in the Oilers lineup come playoff time. Hired or fired?
Hire it.
Think so?
He's been awesome since he's come to Edmonton. I thought he's added a lot of speed to the lineup. He's actually added a little physicality to the lineup.
They've managed to move him down, and it hasn't
Yeah.
been the Skinner syndrome. Where
It's been perfect because he should be actually a bottom 6 forward on this hockey team. But I've really liked some of the elements that he's brought to the team, so I hire it.
Hire it. Same reasons that Belzy just said. He's I like his speed too. I think that's necessary. And he's a kind of a big body too.
the speed does help.
And there's no
It's not a huge bottom 6 like fleet of foot.
Yep.
Kapanen helps there.
there's a lot of testicular fortitude with him. He's not afraid to go to the rough areas.
All right, let's go here. Quentin Byfield will be the best player on the Kings within 2 years. Hired or fired?
Ooh. LA Kings.
He looks good. He's big. He,
looks
moves
good.
well.
Yes, he does. I'm going to go fire it.
You think so?
Purely because I think the LA Kings are going to go big game hunting.
You think they're going to move him?
No, I
Oh.
think they're going to try to.
You're gonna bring in somebody else that's better.
That's better.
Okay.
I think they're going to go big game hunting 1 year in free agency if a player doesn't get.
Who are you
Re-signed.
thinking? Are you thinking somebody?
I've got 2 players in mind.
Connor McDavid.
Connor McDavid.
He's not going anywhere. My God, you come in today on 2 guys and just drop a nuclear bomb on us.
Yeah,
Jeez
he's not
Louise.
going anywhere. But I think there's a few rumors floating out there right now. Some guys that may or may not be on the trade block or potential free agents, and I could see the LA Kings going after some guys.
Just go get that
Yeah.
guy. I mean, that would come back around to their scoring issues.
Yeah.
I do like Byfield though. Like he looks like there should be more production there. You know, so like maybe there's something to come. Gager, what do you think about this?
God, now Belzy just threw a complete wrench into that. I mean, Kopitar's their leading. He's got 40 points.
They still got Kempe. He's going to be around. He's not going to get worse in the next
But
couple
is he
years.
going to be like they got to find someone to replace Kopitar? He can't keep playing, can he?
That
Maybe
sounds,
he can.
sounds like what Belzy's talking about.
So. And does Byfield go in there and take?
Who are the free
Now-
agents in 2 years' time?
Just give me the damn name, Belzy. Are you talking RFA or UFA?
Could be a UFA.
I'm trying to think around the league, like off the top of my head here.
Or who would be a potential trade target?
JT Miller.
No,
okay.
No. But you got to think like high-end offensive.
Yeah, from
player.
Phoenix. I think grew up in Phoenix.
From out. Oh, yeah, could be that guy.
Austin Matthews.
Yeah,
that would be interesting. Yeah.
I think he's up in 2 years' time.
Yeah.
Because he signed the bridge.
Yeah.
It'd be a ton of money.
Bridge to L.A.
It's a long bridge from Toronto.
There's
to LA.
also Mitch Marner.
Yeah.
Would be
Yeah.
a trade target. He was a trade candidate.
He's having a nice year,
offseason.
too.
He is, yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine if the Kings somehow got both Matthews and Marner? Leafs fans would be in shambles. Evander Kane will make a significant impact in the playoffs if he can play hired or fired. Significant being the key word there.
Fire it. I
Fire
think he'll be. If he plays, I think there's something there, but I don't know if it's significant.
Yeah.
Last one. Kansas City Chiefs are going to three-peat as Super Bowl champions. Hired or fired?
Hire it.
Think so?
Yeah.
Are you a Chiefs guy?
No,
Oh, okay.
not. I'm a Dolphins guy.
Oh, yeah,
so
sorry
I've
about
got, yeah, I've been hurt too many times, but there's just something about the Chiefs. They just find a way to
find
get
a
it
bloody
done.
way, don't they?
Yeah, like
I still think the Bills and Ravens are better football teams this year.
I don't disagree with you,
I
but
just
the
don't know
Bills-
about going into Arrowhead for a championship
the
game.
Bills
Like,
are the opposite. They find a way to lose
Yeah.
that big game.
they did beat the Chiefs this year.
Yeah,
But-
blind squirrel finds a nut. though,
Yeah,
Dusty.
they did. Yeah, and I'm not sure they get by the Ravens anyway, even with the game at home.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a good game.
Yeah.
Is anybody going to check on Matty that day? Because like
The Ravens Bills thing?
yeah.
Well, it's good because Eric's a huge Bills fan.
Yeah.
And Maddie's a big Ravens fan. So something's going to be going down in the office here. I mean, it absolutely has to. Belsey, I've been staring at your coffee here. Are you a guy who drinks coffee all day or
No,
okay?
I'm like maximum 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that what most
most
people are?
I
Like
don't
my
know.
wife will do 2. I think when she works, she does 3. She's a teacher. Like teachers got the coffee
Yeah,
all the
like
time. And
I'm up at 5.
Yeah.
So like obviously you're up early too. So I have my first
so
coffee.
you get that early one. Yeah.
Go through my practice, and by the time I'm done my practice, I'm like, oh, I'm spent. I need
Another
one.
coffee.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not drinking like 4 coffees in the
no,
morning.
no.
Gage, are you a coffee guy?
Oh, yeah.
You are, eh?
Yeah.
So how many do you have in a day?
Well, it depends on how many shots of espresso do I have. Is that what you
Is that what you do?
Really?
Really?
Yeah. Well, I add a little hot water to it. But usually
So you just have
Just so
espresso
you're-
and hot water?
I got Lavazza grind, double.
I don't even know what that means.
It's you go into the one section.
I'm just honest.
When we go to the, you know what? We need to go to the Italian center
Yeah,
together, and
yeah.
I'll show you the grind that I get.
Okay.
Freshly grind with the thing, and then probably I do the double shot and with some hot water, just
So
a
that's like
splash.
an Americano, is it
yeah,
not? Yeah.
essentially.
Okay, so that's what you have.
Yeah.
The only time I've ever had espresso in my life, I've told the story before. My roommate at the time, Fergus, big espresso guy, is like, come on down to Chapters. We'll have an espresso. So I go down there. He gets me a double espresso shot. I went back home that afternoon with our other roommate, and I pitched a perfect game with Bartolo Colon against him in like MLB 01 or 02. I was just like inside, like cutter fastballs all day. That's the only perfect game I ever threw against another human. And I was on espressos. And my other roommate, because the three of us lived together, goes, see, Dusty, you should have espresso every day.
Maybe
Look
I'll-
at how effective you are. It's like,
When we
what?
get into the playoffs on Tecmo, maybe we'll throw espresso
Oh,
down.
I don't
No,
I'm already shaking all the time.
What you got to try is a Turkish coffee. So when I was playing in Zagreb, the trainer was like, "You want a Turkish coffee?" And I was like, "I've never had a Turkish coffee." And I think that's where you legitimately boil the beans,
Yeah.
right? In like a little like pan, and then they heat up, and then everything drips out.
No way.
But so you know when you go to the dentist and they've got those little like white cups that are about this big,
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
That's how much coffee he gave me.
That was the coffee?
He put whipped cream about this high with some sprinkles on it, and I buried that thing, and I was vibrating for the entire day.
No way.
Yeah.
So just straight off the bean.
Just straight off the bean.
Wow.
What does Messi drink? He drinks that it looks like matcha or whatever, and it's in a special cup, and you pour water, and it kind of goes to the bottom, and he sips it out of a straw. You ever see that?
No, I haven't.
I'll look this up.
The doc over in the chat. Let's wrap with this. Hey, Dusty, if you like espresso, you should try meth. That's a good way to wrap up Two Guys and a Goalie today. Well done, Doc. Just imagine how many perfect games I could throw
my God.
on meth. That would be great. Belty, you're back on Thursday?
Yep.
All right, excellent. That's going to do it for Two Guys in Goalie today, brought to you by GS Construction. Gager, what's coming up on EST Afternoons over there?
We're just going to go over the Kings game. Got my old teammate, Kelly Buckberger, coming on the show.
Nice.
Little heat and smoke. Daniel Valente from The Score for a little NFL, and then we'll set up Reed and Jay.
Busy show today on EST Afternoons from 1 to 3 right here on Edmonton Sports Talk. If you're listening on TuneIn or iHeart or EdmontonSportsTalk.com, that show will be starting up here after about 4 minutes of Whale and the Wolf. If you're watching over on YouTube, turn on autoplay. It'll take it right on over. Stick around on EST Afternoons. For Shawn Belle, Joaquin Gage, I'm Dustin Nielson. I'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock.